Hey everybody, welcome to another model building workshop. I am Mr. Allen, coming to you on behalf of the Community Libraries of Providence. I'm here in my basement workshop, and today we're looking at the Encore Models Heinkel He 112B. And what Encore Models is what it says, Encore Models. They take molds from other companies and reissue them in a new box, and they provide more decal options than the original versions did. Most of these kits are old Heller molds like this one, but I've noticed that there are some that are not Heller, that are other manufacturers. Most of them seem to be the Heller kits from back like in the 70s, 80s, such as this one. There's a small catalog here on the back of some of their other kits. These are also Heller reboxings, and I built a lot of these Heller kits back when I was pretty much a high school student, and I've got one sitting here from that time period. This is my Heinkel 112 that I built quite a while ago, and this one held up pretty well. I'm kind of pleased how this one held up all these years. This version is a Romanian version. I'll look more at this plane in a second in the books. But Romania was one of the main users of this airplane. Now this one is the Heller kit. This is not the Encore kit. This is a Heller kit. So we'll look at the differences when we open the box up in just a second. I always thought this was a fun looking plane. Although it looks like the wings are awfully stubby. Look like they should be a little longer than this. So it's kind of odd. It's almost like the rear stabilizers are bigger than the wings. It's an interesting design. Let's open this thing up and take a look. Here's our instruction sheet. Parts are in a bag. Do I have everything here? There's the decal sheet, which is a real bonus. We're going to start with the decal sheet. I'm going to show you this quickly because it does have some offensive markings on it, which I'll show you quickly, and then I'll cover those up. So this is what you get. Let me do that. So what you have, there's several different versions. You have the German version from, say, 1938-39. There is a Spanish Civil War version, and then there's the Romanian version as well that you can see there. The Romanian decals, although looks like they're slightly off register because the dot in the center is off, which is unfortunate, because what's nice about these is that they do have that lilac, I think was the color, a light bluish color on the borders, which they're supposed to have, which the Heller kit did not, as you can see here. For some reason, Heller didn't add that color around the edges of the St. Michael's cross. And it's called the St. Michael cross because if you look really carefully, I don't want to get out of focus, but it basically is the letter M repeated several times over. If you look at the top of the cross, you'll see the M shape. Okay, you got it? Yeah, so that's a St. Michael's cross, and that was in honor of King Michael. And these seem to be, well, they're more in register than the Encore Models ones, but these are slightly off register. Although the ones on the side of the fuselage aren't too bad. Also, you have the tail, which you had to paint by hand on this one. They didn't give you a decal for it. And I painted it. I'm saying lilac because it seemed to be my memory from all this time. I think that's what they described the color as in the maybe they didn't, but it was something of that ilk that they described it as in the the Heller instructions. So it gave me the impression it was some sort of a purple color. But if you look here, you can see it's more of a blue, more bluish shade. And we'll look at the books in just a second on that. So let's take a look at the instruction sheet again. This thing's loaded with certain German political party emblems. But hey, what can you do? So here's the painting instructions here. So it has these two were in the German and the Romanian one were in the original Heller boxing. It's the Spanish one that's new in this kit. So if you want to do the one that was tested out in the Spanish Civil War, you can. Apparently what they found out during the Spanish Civil War that I guess it worked fairly well at attacking ground targets. It's something that they used it for, and I believe that's what the Romanians did as well. Although I think a Romanian was able to become an ace using one of these aircraft, which we'll look at that in a second. The instructions and the assembly is not that complicated for these old Heller kits, and that's something I really like about them. I mean, when I was young, I really appreciated how simply these went together. But even now, as I'm getting older, I kind of get nostalgic, and I like going back to building something that doesn't fight me very much. As I'm getting older, my eyesight gets a little worse. I like a thing that goes together and isn't over-engineered and drives me insane. And these are pretty good for that. There is an optional engine, like radiator, exhaust. Yeah, radiator. No, exhaust panel here. I don't know why I said radiator. So look carefully at your painting options and decide which one you want to do, because it gives you parts for both. This is interesting in that all your paint callouts on this are by name and not by some manufacturer's paint numbers, so that's refreshing. Although some people like to have the actual paint told to them. But this says, if you look up RLM colors, you'll know what RLM 02 is. For example, that tends to be probably the most confusing one here, if you're not familiar with, is the RLM 02. There's RLM 70 black green, which is the color of the propeller, which I think I have mine as a steel color. Although it probably wouldn't be steel on both sides, to be fair, because that would blind the pilot. Interesting. Notice those things now. Didn't really notice that back in the day, but I'm not sure what it. Yeah, but I'm not sure what the Heller instructions told me to do. Interesting. That probably has a black back side of that propeller. Otherwise, that guy's gonna have some issues in the bright sun. Yeah, there's no real surprises on the assembly by the looks of things. Pretty straightforward. Yeah. Let's see what it has for history on the sheet here anyway. Let's see. It says, while the Heinkel He-112B saw only limited service with the Luftwaffe, it was used in combat by the Spanish, and one shot down a U.S. Army Air Force P-38, which is flying over Spanish Morocco, probably by accident, during 1943. Must have crossed over from Algeria or Morocco. And 2 squadrons of the Romanian Air Force were equipped with this, and they were active over the Eastern Front during 1941. And from what I'm gathering from some of the books and things I've read, they did fairly well. The issue with this plane was that there was a competition, I think that was put out in 1933, I believe. Let me just double check that. I think it's right here. Yeah, there were 4 aircraft designed at a competition for a 1933 fighter contract with the Luftwaffe. And this plane came in second behind the Messerschmitt Bf 109. So they had small numbers, were used by the Luftwaffe for a short time. And as we mentioned, Romania received some, Spain received some as well. So they had some that worked okay on the export market. They figured around 100 were completed. Another user of sorts was Hungary. They were really aching to get their hands on these, though there were a lot of issues with that, mainly because Romania was trying to obtain them as well. And since there was a conflict between Romania and Hungary in the late 30s, Germany did not want to get involved in that conflict, so they tended to back off their sales agreement with Hungary until everything cooled down. But at that point, Romania wanted them, and Romania got higher on the list, probably because they have the oil refineries, I'm guessing. But anyway, Japan wanted some of these for their Navy, although when they received them, they realized they weren't as good as they had hoped, and then ended up using them as trainers. Let's see. Yeah, so Hungary really didn't get many of them by the time they finally got around to getting their orders in. They didn't get too many, and at that point they realized that the engine was a bit underpowered and the performance was not really as great as you would need by 41, 42. And Hungary ended up going with the Italian RE 2000 instead, which I think turned out to be a better choice for them. Yes, as the Japanese rejected it as a fighter, but they took 30 of them for training duties. So, did not know that until I did some research for this video. Anyhow, so that's a very brief history of it. Well, let's look at, well, if I can get these, some books here. Romanian Aces of World War II. Really pretty paintings in this book. Usually are with these Osprey books. So I'm going to see one here. If I can get this page to stay open. Right there. This is White 24. I guess the 52nd Fighter Squadron, Group 5. It's in early August of 1941. That's in a dark green overall. With all the yellow theater markings, the Eastern Front, and some other Romanian fighters here as well, particularly the homegrown IAR-80, which maybe we'll talk about that in an upcoming episode. And then we have Romanian Air Force, the prime decade, 1938 to 1947. Squadron Signal publications. And these are always cool. And they're loaded with photographs. And let's have a look at what they've got here. In this book, we have, if I can get this thing, the light gray one, like the one we've got our model modeled after, is in this shade, which, as you can tell, they discovered fairly early in the conflict that that color really was not a good camouflage color, and they remedied that as the war went on. So let's see what it says here. This is by fighter ace Lascu, and he flew Black 11. This is Black 18 over here. And on 12th July of 1941, He was killed by Soviet anti-aircraft fire while flying another He-112B, which was Black 1. But he's got a fun mascot here on the aircraft. If you can see that. And I believe you can get a version of that plane, these decal markings, if you get, I think it's the RS model of the Heinkel 112 and 172nd. I think RS makes one that has those decal options. I'm not completely positive, but I believe that's what it is. So anyway, that's a look at this kit, although I think I should probably show you some of the parts for you. Get off the airwaves here. Although I think I know, well, I think you know, I should say, what's involved with some of these kits, but if you don't, it's kind of a typical thing, you know. So this is open here, so you have two different options as I showed you for that panel. Interior details. It's been a long day, sorry folks. They're there, they're not great, but with a paintbrush you could make that look a bit busy. Yeah, there's stuff here too. As to what you would see inside, I can tell you from looking in this one, there's not much you're gonna see. You know, this is all like antenna pieces. You know, the twin blade propeller. Your funky wings. Reminds me of a Spitfire, although it's small. And then the oversized stabilizers, I guess. And here's your choice of front panels there. You can see the different exhaust options for the two different variations of the aircraft. And here's your wheel, propeller hub, and some of your interior parts there. And then your glass, which is interesting for a plane this early, you know, like 1938 or so, to have an all glass top like that, although other countries are experimenting with it, but generally you didn't see it like that until later, like the bubble top. I gather this is missing some armor protection, which is another issue with the aircraft. But anyhow, so that is the Heinkel 112. Kind of a plane that tends to be overlooked. Understandably so, there weren't many of these made out there. And one thing I thought was interesting as I was researching this one and some of their other fighter planes is that it seems there was a political decision made with the high command of the Air Force that they preferred Heinkel work on bomber projects and they let Messerschmitt focus on fighter projects. Didn't know that? Interesting. All right, so that's today's model building workshop. Keep on building. Have fun out there. If you're wondering, yes, this is not a bad kid. This is kind of a kid-friendly kit. All right, see you soon. All right, bye now.